Hi and welcome, Nichlas. It's lovely to have you here on my show.
I'm glad to be here.
Would you like to introduce yourself? Who are you?
Well, my name is Nichlas, and today I work with emotional intelligence and software. I do teachings in therapy and in teachings around regarding emotional intelligence in business. So, but I used to do something different.
Yes, can you tell me a little about that?
Well, I used to work as a medium and a clairvoyant.
Like me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, many years ago.
And when did you start doing that?
Well, actually, I was starting professionally when I was around 21, 22. And I had a very good career on it. It was going very fast, actually, from starting to reaching a point where I could be professional. So I was very blessed or lucky in that way.
And you were starring radio shows, television productions, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I was discovered for there was a radio show in Denmark called two guys and a babe. It would be the translation thing, and it was a guy called Dennis Johansen at that time who was a host. And I was appearing in that show every Tuesday, and we had many listeners at that show. And I would talk about, I mean, psychic stuff and the thing about being a medium. And people would call in, so it would be like a radio doctor in a spiritual radio doctor. They could ask me pretty much anything, and then I would do readings on famous people in the studio at that time.
What was it like being a professional clairvoyant back then in a world that was very female energetically?
Oh, it was weird. It was definitely weird. I mean, I was a young man, and I guess I had a lot of conflicts in that because I mean, at that time, if you were at a party and people would say, "Well, I work with, in doing stocks, selling stocks, or whatever people would do, whatever they do," and I said, "Well, I talk to dead people." I mean, it was like the whole party just crashed, right? And people would look at me and like, "Oh my God, what are you?" And I mean, so it was kind of a crazy time back then because there wasn't that many male persons at that time who wasn't really being strange. I mean, when you went to a fair working that was spiritual at that time, I mean, people would be dressed up like Indians and stuff. So I mean, they would.
They're really meaning it.
Oh yeah,
very serious about.
Yeah, they felt it.
Yeah.
And they would be like, like this, and they would see things in your aura and stuff like that. And I mean, I was not like that at all. I had a period of time, obviously, where everything was crystals, little crystals, and this has an energy, and I had this thing around my. And funny enough, I mean, I was very single in that period, so that makes sense. So I guess it was very strange. There was a lot of critics. People, they recognize you as soon as you get in television.
Yes.
Oh, you are famous now, or a known person. Well, then you must be for real, right? But I mean, in reality, things changed. And that period of time, it was before all the TV shows with the Honest Mark, it was called, and all the other
Spirit
ones.
of power.
Yeah, Spirit
power
of Power. Yeah, exactly. I mean, before those shows, when you went to a radio station or in a television show, it would be weird. And at the same time, I mean, I guess because I was a young man, I had no boundaries for myself whatsoever. I mean,
And what do you mean about that? Do you mean about throwing yourself at all types of clients, all types of jobs, and not respecting your own boundaries?
yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, there was a show called Rundfunk TV2 was a musician thing, like a Danish MTV. No, not that. I mean, but a show built around music, right?
Right,
And
I remember it.
Yeah, and they asked me to appear there to tune into Elvis and stuff like that. And I was like, all right, sure, I'll do it. I mean, it doesn't matter what it was. I was like, sure, I'll do it. And I remember back then that journalists, they would contact me also with the Peter Lundin killings. I was contacted by a journalist,
And just to get it straight, Peter Lundin was a
serial killer.
we have here in the country.
Yeah, exactly. He killed a woman and her 2 children, and I was approached by this journalist who wanted me to go and look for the bodies with him, and I mean, I wasn't able to say no to anything. So I mean,
What did you gain from taking in all this? Your ego, money? What did you
no,
gain
not money,
from it?
unfortunately, but I mean, ego, a whole lot. I mean, I'm from a background where I never got recognized in any way. I had low self-esteem, no self-confidence, and all of a sudden I got all that attention, and it was intoxicating. I mean, I craved it because finally I was good enough. Finally I was good enough. And I mean, looking back today, I see that's probably what made me a very skilled medium at that time, because I craved it so much. So I was so perfectionate about it and passionate about it, that I guess that I just had to be better all the time, improving, being better, so I can get that recognition, so I can help people more than anyone else can in the whole world. I have to be the best. I guess that was
And to whom? Your parents or the public or yourself?
I guess a mix of it all. Looking back, I think it was a mix of it all. I had to, especially from my dad. I mean, he didn't recognize spiritual stuff. He was like, "Oh, you're silly or crazy or."
It didn't work.
Exactly. Just until the day I appeared in the first TV show. Yeah, then I got recognized. Then he began to brag about me and say, "Oh, my son, he's a psychic and he can see stuff. And do you want a session with him? Perhaps I can hook you up," and stuff like that. So all of a sudden, I got this attention, and from women as well. I mean, back then there wasn't. I mean, Google was there, but there was not. It was probably the only thing almost at the internet. So people would still write letters and stuff, right? So, and I appeared in all those ladies' magazines, and women would write letters. You know, "Oh, you have beautiful eyes," sending pictures, stuff like that. And I guess that it was. I guess I got intoxicated in some way. I just wanted more. I want to finally, in some crazy way, I felt good enough for the first time.
I think it's amazing that you're so honest speaking up about this topic, because I think most people would be embarrassed about thriving with their egos or be motivated by the ego, which I think most people do without even thinking about it. To me, whenever I work as a clairvoyant or animal communicator, I empty myself from all energy after I'm done. And that's the reason why I can only manage today 3 clients a day. I have helped 8 clients, 12 clients a day, and then my brain freeze. I can't recall anything. I can't memorize anything. I can't do anything. I am so drained, and it's costing me everything in my privacy. Were you on a high, or did you get drained as well?
Well, it actually makes sense what you say. I mean, I can recognize much of it. I guess that I got both. I was high at the moment, so I could. I was working in UK at one point as a medium there, and we did like 18 to 20 sometimes sessions a day, only a half an hour, but I mean, still, that's a lot of people. And you would do a demonstration as well, a clairvoyant demonstration as well at the evening, right? So I mean, sometimes you would be completely mentally and emotionally crushed afterwards. And as I was 26, I guess, 25 or 26, I got anxiety attacks all of a sudden. Had it for 3 years. It was terrible. I mean, and today I think it was just because of the thing you're talking about.
Oh, you never combined that before now?
Yeah, I've been thinking about the thing with the boundaries, and I mean the thing with taking things too far. I mean, I am a crazy paradox is if you imagine yourself having a big ego and at the same time being very have a great deal of empathy, too much almost empathy. If you combine those two things, you're doomed in some way to crash. And I guess that was me. I mean, I could put myself on stage with my ego and I would get the applause and everything would be nice, but the more sensitive side of me, the empathy, the people I was connecting with afterwards, I could sit alone and just cry. And feel all abused in some way because I gave so much. So my ego took me to one place, and I mean, my empathy
Reacted
yeah,
differently.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it makes sense what you say. I mean, I guess it's to still this day, I'm very careful about my energy in how I put myself out in a place where I can feel or sense stuff. I've spent many years trying to shut myself down in many ways.
I don't know about you, but when people still of today hear that I'm a clairvoyant or an animal communicator, they're like, oh, at a party, hey, can you count how many fingers do I have behind my back? And you know, I hate that because they don't know how much energy it takes for me
No.
to tune in and say, you have 4 fingers. You know, and they're, whoa, she guessed it, right?
Do you say that? What do you say to them when you do it?
That they can book me. But what about you? Because today, how do you react today? Because you just said that back in the days you were
Yeah.
doing it on clubs or just convincing people.
True. I mean, it was in the bathroom. There would be guys, standing there peeing. They would say, "Well, do you have a feeling about me right now?" And I'll be like, "Oh, Jesus! If you could just look at anywhere else than on me while I'm peeing, would be nice." So I mean, today, I guess I disguise it better. Not many people know that I used to work as a medium or a psychic. So, and I've been teaching people about facial micro expressions, body language, stuff like that. I'm very good at it. So I guess today, sometimes I have a feeling of something and they would say, oh, it's because he's reading micro expressions or facial thing. He's very, but I always, sometimes things go in too deep anyways.
But do you ever think when you are born with that ability, do you think that that ability will stop just because you quit your job?
No, unfortunately not. I mean, many people, they would see it as a blessing in many ways. But to be honest, it
It's a
has given
curse.
me so much more pain than good experiences. Obviously, I could build a career on it. That I'm grateful, and I'm grateful for all the trust that's been given to me, the people I'm able to could be helping. But I mean, the cost of it in my private life, emotionally, I have to shut it down all the time because it's too much.
So it became a curse.
Yes.
So how did you stop your career because you don't work as a clairvoyant or a psychic
No,
anymore?
that's true. Well, actually, I mean, at that time, I was very skilled. I was very good because I was so perfectionist about it and passionate, as I was telling. So I began to get some reactions from other colleagues, we would like to call them. But I guess in this business, you must know this too, there's a lot of envy and jealousy.
I do.
I mean, people, they would like say, hi, nice to meet you. And they were like, oh, she's not very nice. I mean, did you see her? I mean, people are like that. And they would do that with me all the time at that time. And I guess if you're a very strong person, you would say, oh, I don't care. But for me, it wasn't like that. I mean, still this day, if people have a bad opinion about me, it actually hurts. It actually does something to me. I don't like, I want to this day to people to like me still.
Still,
Yes.
20-something years later.
Yes. I mean, I'm 46. I still, if I can choose, I'm never gonna say I don't care what anybody else thinks or says.
So what about the sentence, you can't control what other people think, you can't control their background or their story, you can't control that it's only a projection because they do not take a responsibility over their own lives, so that's why they project it on you. What about that?
Well, it's all true, and I mean, if we're all able to emotionally being able to control and have a form of shield, I would say like a space where I'm able in that given moment to think exactly like that, then it helps. But when you say projection, the opposite side is introjection, right? So I guess that I have a lot of introjects within me that is about being a nice, good person. It means something to me to be a good person. It means extremely much to me to be something good. And I know that with great power comes great responsibility.
Yes.
Yes. And I haven't always lived up to that. I know this. So
Is it because you are hard on yourself and you're a perfectionist and your standards are too high and that's the reason why you're judging yourself? Or is it because you really did bad things?
oh, both, I guess. I mean, at the time where I was known, I was intoxicated, and at the same time I was suffering immensely much. I mean, so I guess I did a lot of stupid stuff at that time. And I got to all these known famous people. They were sitting in my couch in my living room, old stars I've been watching as a kid. All of a sudden they're porn stars, stuff like that. I mean, it was just weird situations, right? I mean, because I was still a young man. And I mean, at one time, this porn star was sitting in my couch, and I had
Wanted a reading?
oh yes, and she was like she had this feeling that I was holy. That was the thing because you're clairvoyant. You don't watch porn, do you? And I mean, I just had watched porn with her. I mean, many times. So I just have to not call her porn name and remember her real name. And in my head, every time I closed my eyes to tune in, it was a naked lady jumping around, and I had to push the stuff away. And I mean, so I guess the thing with and lots of people back then, they said, "Why do you take money for it?" Why,
I heard that too.
Exactly.
Yeah, you should just give it. Yeah.
It's a holy gift from God. Why don't you just give it away? What do you tell people?
Because I'm making a living out of it. Who's gonna give me food? I can't go down to the supermarket with my good heart. What do you think? What did you say?
Exact same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was like people they judged in some weird way. They had an experience or an expectation that you had to be in some ways holy at the same time. I mean, you must have met this.
I know. You know what? People think I'm a vegetarian because I'm an animal communicator. People think I'll never drink alcohol because have a clean body, and that's not true. Any of it. So yeah, they still project their, or they have a lot of assumptions about me as a guru.
Yeah.
They call it like, oh, you're a guru. I'm like, no, I'm just a person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think about being in this, 20 plus years ago, it was mainly women.
Yes.
What do you think? How was it being a male clairvoyant with all these women around you, with all these emotions?
It was weird. I mean, because many of the male characters, male figures at that time, I mean, they had those weird things too. So I guess had that masculine energy at the same time could sometimes be weird. I guess it helped me in many ways because there was lots of women, so I guess I stood out in a good way
Yeah.
because what I was known for at that time was to say things very precise, very directly, with empathy, but I said it as it was. And that was unusual because many, still today, I think many psychics, many clairvoyants, medium, they would be like, oh, it's like I feel you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, and at the same time you feel very single. I mean, it feels like you on one hand are single, one hand have a, so your energy is like you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, but your energy also says you like freedom. They would say it, so I mean, it could fit on anyone, right?
But that's not in general, a female clairvoyant. That's just an insecure or an
Exactly. And if you ask
clairvoyant.
me, 85 to 90% I've met are like this. Still today.
Because they don't believe in their own abilities?
No, yes, they don't have that trust. I learned that trust. You learned that trust. But I mean, you haven't had things coming easy to you either.
No, not at all.
So you've been struggling, fighting. I know this, right?
Yeah.
So I've been struggling, fighting as well. And I guess if you are fighting, struggling in some ways, I mean, you would have to trust yourself in some ways. And many people, they are fearful of other people's reactions. So if I say, you have a boyfriend, and you say, no, I don't. That's a rejection, right? You rejected me. You rejected my energy. You rejected my ability, my psychic thing. And back then, when I used to train people working with psychic or mediumship skills, I mean, I would train this because I know that fear is every medium or psychic or clairvoyant's biggest enemy. It's fear, shame and fear, always.
Not only clairvoyance.
No,
Mankind.
mankind. True. I mean, it is our biggest enemy in general, obviously. Yeah.
Don't you think it's a matter of communication, basically? How you communicate as a clairvoyant? I know it's not that simple because you need to trust whatever you download, but it's also a matter of how you communicate things.
Yeah, I guess it is. I think it's a conscious, brave choice to be honest, authentic. Also in your work as a medium or a psychic clairvoyant, I mean, you have to make that choice. Am I going to be authentic in my work? So if I'm authentic, I have to say what I see regardless. So if people, they reject this, and I mean, you've tried this many times that you say something, you had a granddad, he was working, they said, no, it's not true. Then they went home, investigated, came back saying, oh,
I know.
gee, you were right. So you have to have that, you have to make that conscious choice, but it's a very, very, if you ask me, brave choice. And you are one of the few, actually, I actually feel, who are extremely authentic.
Wow.
And yeah, that's a big kudos to you.
Thank you.
But I mean this from my heart. So you have this authenticity around you. And I think being authentic in this line of work is the closest, if I have to say something holy, I think it's I'm sorry, I think it's the closest path to God, whatever that is for you. Our holiness, our access to something holy, to something greater, the universe, whatever you believe in, is through being authentic.
So as a closure, if you should give or pass on 3 tips to a client, what would they have to seek for to find the most professional clairvoyant, psychic, or medium?
Yeah, just go to Did.
Yes. Thanks.
I would say, remember that mediums or clairvoyants or psychics are people. So if people start to act like they are not people, so if they start to act like they are not human, something's off. Yeah. So can you feel them? That's all. I mean, it goes in life, right? I mean, can you feel that person? Do I feel it in my heart, in my gut? I can feel you. Even though you say something, can I feel you? If not, move on. And I mean, if they're not concrete enough, I mean, if they're not speaking to you so you feel it's you they talk to, then I would move on too. So I would be demanding, but I would also be respectful, because I mean, as a client, you have to understand that working as a medium is a very sensitive field, because you're working with your energy in a way where you have to feel. So like somebody saying, no, it's not true. Just in that voice, it can,
It's like,
yes, it's like a slap in your face,
Yeah.
right? So you have to be respectful as well, but you can. I mean, it's okay to say I have these demands. It's okay if you and if there is a good connection in it, and you can feel the person is authentic, honest,
go for it.
go for it.
Nichlas, it was so nice to have you on my show. Thank you so much for sharing.
Nice to be here. A great honor.
And I hope that you'll join me again one day.
Anytime, anywhere. You just say when.
Okay, thank you.